Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to School Matters with me, Sumaya Khan. Yes, we all are safe and well. Yes, it's the third term. The school year is almost over. Alhamdulillah, technology and many advancements have made the human life easier, but not necessarily happy or content. In Western culture, girls and women in North America have a lot of pressure when it comes to, the ideal body, and it's affecting their self-image. 91% of young women that were, surveys were done in college campus reported that dieting to lose weight at some point of that 91%, at least 22% admitted to, dieting often. Even if you don't feel, particularly powerful, think about how far you've come, how you've survived. You're here right now, alive and powerful beyond your knowledge. And be patient, with yourself. Imagine a world where everyone loved themselves just the way they are. A world where everyone accepted their strengths and weaknesses and felt confident and proud of who they are. This can be a reality, listeners, if this world started with our children, our kids, our youth. That's right. Self-love is not just about loving yourself. It's about accepting yourself. And what better way to start than by encouraging self-love in our little ones, with our children. But why is self-love so important, especially from a young age? As someone who grew up, in a loveless home, can still find they're suffering from the aftermath of negativity and abuse. Self-love is like a shield of armor for your child's mental health. Children who love themselves are like rays of sunshine, spreading positivity wherever they go. Self-love is also like a secret weapon, for building a healthy relationships. Children who love themselves are like ninja warriors, when it comes to spotting toxic relationships. They simply won't tolerate anything that doesn't treat them with the respect and kindness they deserve. And when faced with difficult social situations, these kids are like problem-solving geniuses. Well, currently, gender-based violence is at its high peak. Suicide, HIV, teen pregnancy, drugs, peer pressure. It is important to teach our children self-love. Our guest who we are linking up this evening is Sister Lorraine, all the way from Malvern, if I'm correct. Welcome to School Matters.
Good evening to you, Samaya. Thank you for having me.
How are you doing this evening?
Well, thanks, and you?
I'm good. I don't know what introduction to give you. You wear so many caps. You are always looking so smart. I know you're always assisting every single one. I've met you last year when I had my safety and security seminar where the Mlazi district and the province, a lot of DOE officials were invited. And there you were with so much of ideas and all that you have been doing. Our topic this evening is also collaboration, where on Thursday for our workshop, we'll be talking about self-love, say no to self-sabotage. It's about self-awareness, self-respect. You are involved. So could you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, as you were right, Mayor, I wear different hats. Okay. In 2020, I was nominated as one of 25 women for serving the nation for the work I do in the community, which led 4 political parties to approach me to run for ward councillor. But because I'm so community-driven, I focus more of my time in community rather than politics. And apart from that, the major challenges that we've been facing right now is gender-based violence. And our organization has been established in 2015. Around about 2021, we changed our constitution and we began to address gender-based violence, femicide, rape, incest, domestic violence, a whole lot of challenges that the community has been facing. So our work has extended Durban and beyond. We registered with the Department of Social Development. We also work with stakeholders, psychologists, social workers, chats with SAPs. We work with various SAPs, the courts. We process court applications. We fight for the rights of victims. So that practically sums it up.
Okay. When you're looking at gender-based violence, this is so common. And, due to COVID, yes, we always talk about COVID, with our children being at home. This gave rise to so much of relationships with the teenagers, high school courting, but, they were at home. There was a baby born, teenage pregnancy. So how bad is it? Because generally a lot of it is not mentioned, but how bad was it that COVID, due to learners staying at home, has increased STDs, teen pregnancy, drugs?
Well, during COVID-19, GBV rose up to 500%. Out of the 500%, only 6% cases were reported. The reason why the cases were so low was due to the fact that because of the stigma that is attached to a victim. So most of the cases went unreported. And because of the lockdown, a lot of them had to tolerate their partners in isolation. So due to the fact that they went through that phase, and it was also the economic downturn, people were struggling to make ends meet, and families couldn't provide for themselves. So it had a major impact and a lot of stress on a lot of families. Due to that, GBV was on the increase.
Okay. When we're looking at the pregnancy rate, how bad was that?
The pregnancy rate among teens in school, in 2020, we had an alarming rate of 24,000 children under the age of 10 that was impregnated.
Wow, that's a large number.
And the government did not find a solution to solve the problem till now.
And when you're looking at, crime, we have the most youth involved in crime, whether it's car hijacking, whether it's narcotics, whether it's petty crime. How bad is it?
The crime is escalated due to the unemployment, which led to poverty. And coming back to teenage pregnancies, right? That was also another factor with the teenage pregnancy. 89% of the children, teenagers that didn't have a kid, there was a higher pass rate. They would have graduated from university. 38% of teens that got pregnant will probably get their diploma under the age of 18 before 22. And 2 out of 3 kids will leave their home pregnated. That is all due to poverty. So the crime, the drugs, has all escalated due to unemployment and poverty.
Yeah. Listeners, we will be taking a short ad break. We'll get back to you, Lorraine. We'll link up after the break. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to School Matters with me, Sumaya Khan. Yes, female self-love, say no to self-sabotage. Our guest who we're linking up is advocate of GBV, Lorraine. Welcome back. Yes, we were talking about, self-love and all that has affected our youth, especially our female child. Sister Lorraine, self-love, low self-esteem. How bad is this? Low self-esteem.
As a matter of fact, we work with the schools, and we've had major challenges in a lot of schools in the communities because of low self-esteem. Very, very low self-esteem. We found that many of the teenagers either went through a trauma or they've gone through abuse, and then there's also bullying in schools. Apart from that, it's body shaming. It's a whole lot of issues that these young kids are dealing with. and due to that, they found a way to vent. So that is why we are having so much of issues in a lot of schools, predominantly in the Chatsworth area. Almost every single day, we get cases of bullying and fights after school, and name calling, and it's totally gotten out of hand.
Something which is fresh in the media right now: jail time for bullies at school.
I would actually think that that's the best way moving forward.
Yeah.
Not to disclose one of the schools that we've been working with, we've literally had cases almost every single day out of that particular school. I've been to see the headmaster many a times to address the issues. We've had residents around the school that has complained about the state of that school, and there's been drive-by shooting. Some of the kids have been carrying weapons to school, but it's literally fell on deaf ears. Till this day, I did not get a call back from the headmaster of that particular school.
Do you know, when it comes to weapons, narcotics, drugs, and thug behavior, bullying, this exists even in primary schools, to maybe the grade 6s and 7s. And this can be overwhelming for an educator because it's not the educator's fault. And, it's amazing how you have excellent management, excellent governing body, excellent stakeholders who actually work together to resolve this issue instead of bringing, a colleague down or blaming someone that this child is like this because you don't understand. So, government also needs to educate, I wouldn't say educate, workshop teachers, especially management, how to deal with this. Because there's so much a teacher can do in a classroom. Teaching and learning needs to go on. It is overwhelming.
100%, Sumaya. It's a bit too much for the teachers, but every school has a code of conduct.
Exactly.
And also they have a safety committee. If that has been reinforced into the schools, I'm sure there would be order in the schools. But many of the schools, they do not follow the school code of conduct. This is the reason why we are sitting with such an alarming rate of issues in the schools.
Exactly. And, for all the principals out there, if you work with your team, I'm not only meaning your SMT team, if you work with everyone, even the support staff, to sort this out, a strong, united block, you can overcome so many, even with your local community. Going back to mental health, mental health is so important, with all the psychosocial factors which we all of us have been experiencing, especially our province, KZN, looking at our youth, our children, unemployment rate of their parents, houses damaged by flooding, COVID, loss of deaths, the writing, there's so much psychosocial factors and nothing is done. Giving someone a parcel, a grocery hamper is not going to sort that out. You need to counsel. And a lot of these children, are now like 15, 16. These are young women, girls. And so mental health is so important. What have you noticed with mental health among our teenage girls, especially girls in general?
With the teenage girls, the problems that we've been having, I do understand that KZN faced a lot of, issues, as you mentioned, with the flooding and the unrest and so forth. But when it comes to mental health, that is a major problem among our youths because we find that these kids don't have anybody to speak to. They carry a whole lot of issues, and then you find these outbursts. The only time you notice that these kids are carrying these issues is when there's an outburst or is when they found a way to vent. But apart from that, you find that some of them are, they display that type of behavior in other ways, whereby they bunked school, they got into drugs, then they got into gang fights. There's a whole lot of issues. And predominantly, as I said, coming back to poverty, it's still leading to poverty as well. It's the same thing. Some of the parents, some of these kids' parents are at work and they have no knowledge of these kids' behavior. And how to control it, how to bring order into the home. And then some of the kids are coming from a dysfunctional home, and they're carrying a whole lot of issues from home, bringing those issues into the school, which is affecting their performance.
What?
You see?
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of challenges. So I would have advocated that there should be support groups in the school.
Okay, lovely.
A few years back, we had on the NPO, we had a program running, a Sister Keepers program. We had girls that was under the age of 25 years old. Some of them were already married twice and divorced. They faced GBV. Some of them were raped. They were incest. I promise you, we had 100% success rate when we held a support group. We formed sisterhood. It's like each one reach one, that kind of
I love that saying.
policy that we brought
into the program. Can you just repeat that again? Each one?
Pardon me?
That's saying.
Each one reach one.
Lovely.
Which means you will have to be your sister's keeper.
Okay.
If each one reach one, it's a program that we adopted onto the NPO because I'm a community developer. I develop programs for the community. So that was one of the programs that I developed whereby we found sisterhood. We went into counseling, and we used to have group sessions whereby all these ladies used to meet on a Sunday, and we used to discuss the trauma. And one of the questions that I posed to them on the first meeting was, what is the best thing that happened to you, and what was the worst thing that happened to you in your life? The girls began to speak out about their trauma, and eventually it began to build a bond among each other, and they began to look out for each other because a lot of them carry pain and the trauma, and they don't speak about it. So I would have advocated, and I did put in a proposal with one of the local schools, is that run a program, your brother's keeper or your sister's keepers program, whereby these kids will begin to form a sisterhood or brotherly love, each one reach one.
That's lovely. That's amazing.
Yes, if the schools adopted that kind of a mentality, I promise you, there would be a decline in the problems and the issues that the community is facing currently with the schools.
Well, on Thursday, you can put that out there to the TLOs, where they can take it back, the teachers can take it back to their schools and implement it at their schools, and also the learners who are coming with them. Because this is so important, especially in our culture and community today. Children are afraid to, give the name of someone who, verbally or physically abused someone or did something to someone. Everyone tends to fear. They're very afraid to speak up, for that. But that's a lovely, idea. I actually thoroughly want to, do this. Going back, we don't know what abuse our children in general go through, or anyone for that matter, even a colleague, a family member, or a neighbor, or a friend. We don't know because not everyone talks about everything that happens to them. Now, coping mechanisms after abuse. This is so important because you need it. What's your views, opinions, and advice on that? The coping mechanisms after abuse.
Okay, so we generally, when I do public presentation, I speak about coping mechanism, and also it's like setting goals for yourself. When you've gone through trauma, just to take a step back, many years ago when we were in school, we had guidance counseling. When there was an issue in the school, we would always go to the guidance counselor, whereby we were able to speak about our issues. We don't have that anymore. So that's another challenge. So coming back to dealing with a person's trauma, many of the kids don't have anybody to speak to. So that is why the support groups are so important to be implemented into the schools. And then whereby the kids can be taught about turning pain into power. They can set goals for themselves. It's like try a new sport or get involved in community activities. There's something to keep them occupied, because mental wellness is very, very important. And then also to create support groups for these kids, learn a new skill, and taking charge of your own pain, dealing with your pain, and facing it on a one-on-one, and knowing that I'm better than this, I am better than this, than whatever has been thrown at me. So coming back to dealing with these kids' issues, we had an alarming rate last year. We lost 8 kids due to suicide in the community within a week. And it was all related to the trauma that they were carrying. There were no issues in the schools. These kids had no bullying issues in the schools. They were not victimized by any of the educators, but these kids just committed suicide, So coming back to a low self-esteem, coming back to the abuse, the pain, the trauma, we under-resourced for our district, for the Umlazi district. We only got 2 CS, and we are under-resourced. That is another challenge that we are facing. So as I said, coming back to the schools and having support groups, let the NPOs, the NGOs and the PBOs get involved. Let them get involved and bring in resources to remedy the issue and work with the kids. If the Department of Education can reach out to the other organizations, it'll make life so much easier for these learners.
Yeah.
So they can be
exactly.
educated.
But, end of the day, your school is your home. You try what you can do there. And, every teacher has skills to offer. And I think, if we work together, we can solve not all the problems, but most of the problems. Teenage pregnancy, how bad is this?
Well, teenage pregnancy, as I mentioned earlier on, in 2019 or 2020, it was 24,000 cases that was reported with teenagers being pregnant under the age of 10 years old. Okay, and that was a major issue, a major problem. Also, there's due to the decline of the economy, it proved, difficult for the government itself to cope. So it's a major challenge. That is a major challenge that the country is facing. It's also another pandemic that we are facing. And it's all due to poverty, because majority of the kids, some of the reasons why they are getting pregnant, while they're still in school is because they believe that their chances of being academically and economically successful is low. So they're opting to go down the route whereby they could get pregnant and, they'll have a better future. That is one of the major problems that one of the major problems and the challenges that we are now facing. So 89% of the kids that did not have a kid will complete university and graduate with a degree. But 38% of the kids that fell pregnant in school, you'd find that under the age of 18, only a handful of them will get their diploma at the age of 22.
That's, and those stats just increase and increase when you look at it, and you think about it.
100%. 100%. Plus the challenges that these kids are going to face to regard with teenage pregnancy. They could, due to them being underage, they can end up suffering with hypertension, damage to the arteries, which could lead to kidney failure. Also, they can end up having a stroke. And many of these young kids will go into postnatal depression, baby blues, mood swings, depression. It's a whole lot of issues that these young kids, and I don't believe that there is enough, information out there to reach these kids.
Yes, and it's normally the community centers, religious centers, human activists, educators, people who are involved who generally tend to assist in this. But again, it is overwhelming, and if we can get, parents involved and, again, community involved, we can prevent so much. Something which is very touchy right now, the LGBTQ, right? Each man for himself. Listeners, these are the views and opinions of me and not of the radio station. So, and so is it you, Lorraine, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Christian, if you're a Hindu or whatever faith you belong, you tend to follow your scriptures. parents fear, when you think about it, they feel that, culture is changing. Children are becoming something which we don't even know, especially when we are looking at the culture of, a girl being a girl today, and tomorrow she's a boy, and tomorrow she's with a girl. And then you're looking at the culture of, cannabis is legal. You have children who are like in primary school doing it freely. In every corner, street corner, you tend to see there's some lounge, which no one will even get charged for going there. And that is the gateway to bigger drugs and bigger, narcotics, whatever. So how bad is it out there when you're looking at cannabis, the benzene, the cheaper makes of drugs, which are right now in schools available?
Well, Sumaya, because of the drugs being illegally brought into the country, it's freely available to anyone and everyone. It's like, I always say this, to my colleagues and to the board members, is that if a 15-year-old can find a drug dealer, why can't SAPS find the drug dealer?
Exactly.
You see? So, yeah, so many of them, many of the, law enforcement members are on a take. So they would literally drive past these drug dealers and won't even prosecute. So drugs are now being sold in schools. Practically every school has got drugs. And because weed is being legalized, you find that these these youths as well, they're smoking drugs freely on every street corner. It's sold on every street corner. Even the females are actually, are taking drugs now. So it's completely out of control. The way moving forward is for the community to engage, and that's the only way moving forward, is that engage on an individual level, which means on a one-on-one, and then also in groups, get involved with other groups, like other organizations, other groups, and community. Community and social responsibility is very, very important, and also institutional level. So if we can engage on those 4 levels, I promise you, our battles are won.
Lorraine, something which is so touching, something which is so there, bullying especially. We have seen TikTok videos, especially from our province, of girls literally busting it up, this behavior is like so unacceptable. This behavior is scary. It's frightening, where a girl was even kicked to death. There's anger. Yes, everyone has issues. I think when we were in school, when you were in a classroom, no matter where you came from or who you are, what issues you had to obey the code of conduct, and respect was there. But now times are changing, learners are different. How bad is the bullying situation, especially where, suicide and depression is also the outcome of this? How bad is the bullying?
So, Maya, bullying is also related to low self-esteem. If you were to sum up everything, including drugs, because you want to feel good. Bullying as well, you want to, it's actually on 5 levels. If you look at bullying, it's because of low self-esteem. And you'll find that many of the people that have low self-esteem, they either face some form of trauma, or physical abuse, or words thrown at them. And then you get poverty due to poverty as well. Bullying is also related to poverty, because if you look at some of the girls can afford to have the eyebrows done, some can't. Some of them can afford to have the eyelash done. Also wear name brands. And then when you go onto social media, you'll see that some of them frequent on in certain places, and they do check-ins on Facebook, dining in very elite places whereby the other students cannot afford that kind of a lifestyle. So that's also another issue with bullying. And then you get popularity. Some of them get involved in gang fights, and then they want to now become popular. I'm the person. I control these things, and they also want to do it to impress other people. And then if you look at character traits, if you look at sometimes if an individual is well-spoken, well-mannered, got good grades, dress well, and maybe come out from a good standing family, that could also be something else that could trigger bullying, right? And if you look at racism, that's also another issue with racism. I was currently counseling with another young girl, grade 7. And I'm a designer, I'm a fashion designer by profession. And during my consultation, when I was sitting with this grade 7 girl and I'm, designing a prom dress, and she said to me, I don't want my body showing. And I asked her why. She said to me, I've been bullied in school because I'm dark-skinned. I went into 2 hours of counseling with this kid before we could have a breakthrough. So skin color is also
Do you know,
issue with
you
bullying.
touched on something which is so important. It's actually happening right now. It's Deb's ball, grade 12 matric dinner and dance, having your final lunch with your grade of 2023. And learners are going out for ball gowns, dresses, and they are really costly. And there's learners out there who can't afford it, who just can't afford it.
Correct.
What advice do you have for governing body members, principals, those who are involved in these, life is easy and so extravagant when you are looking at these dinners and these lunches or these dances or, this matric farewells. Everything is so extravagant. You're having it at the best place and, learners are arriving in the most fanciest car. But there's learners there who still have outstanding school fees. There's learners there whose parents can barely pay the bills or worried about, paying your first year of tuition fees or registration fees. What advice? Yes, I know I'm talking on the flip side of the coin. I might put a damper, but what advice we got to those educators, those coordinators, those who are planning these events for the learners of that school? What should they take in consideration?
I would say, Samaya, they should keep it real. Knowing the challenges out there that some of these kids want to attend their prom in a limousine or maybe a posh, and some of them cannot afford that. Remember, these are all contributing factors to bullying. Okay, because you can afford it and I can't. So the educator should actually advocate that there should be a minimum fee charge for these parties. Nothing too fancy, and come as you are. Wear what you could afford, or just give them a simple dress code and just tell them smart casual, something that these people can afford, something that these young learners that already have something available in their drawers, not into a fancy party in a very elite place whereby some parents cannot afford it to foot that bill.
And, especially the grade 12 learners, it's grade 12, when we were in school, our whole life depended on grade 12, where we're going, what we are doing, who we becoming, our future. What advice, as you said, keep it real. Keep it real. Not everyone are academics. What advice you have, from your counseling point of view, to our female learners out there? Because right now the trend is, blessers. The trend is getting involved with older men. The trend is doing things which is not morally right. What advice we have, especially social media, that's a topic on its own. It causes depression because they see all these things which are photoshopped and different friends, advertise that, as you mentioned, different restaurants, different places. What advice do you have to our grade 12 female child out there who's so confused?
Okay, our grade 12 that's just coming out of school, my advice to these young girls is keep yourself. Keep yourself. And I tell this to women when I counsel them, keep yourself. Secondly, education is of vital importance. A man will pick up and leave tomorrow, but you will still have your education. Some of the parents cannot afford to send the kids to school, to colleges or to institutions. There are a lot of courses that are available online, which is free. Get an education. You don't need a man to define you. You don't need to go and find a sugar daddy that wants a place to vent from his wife. life, somebody that's just going to buy you an iPhone or maybe get you a car, but, abuse you sexually, because that's what happens with a lot of girls that are going out to sugar daddies. That's another major challenge that needs to be addressed, So importantly is to build your life, build yourself up, don't count on somebody else. Remember, each one of us carry a talent, and you can duplicate a talent, but you cannot duplicate grace, because each one of us is graced differently.
Yeah. And
so that's my advice to the matrics.
And, advice to the educator out there who's pushing curriculum, who has to finish that syllabus, who got pressure from their management, if you're an educator who tend to find the children who are either doing everything which is wrong, ills of society, you become a complainer. Should that educator just keep quiet? What advice you got for that government educator, where resources and assistance is very, very, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack? What advice you got for them to keep their spark up and to keep them motivated and still loving what they do?
For the educators, I mean, when we were in school, we had our favorite teachers. In spite of them being strict and wanting us getting good grades. But I would say to the educators, importantly is to be friends with the youths.
Yeah.
And I think that if you can adopt that kind of a mentality, whereby instead of me walking into a class and bullying the kids and telling them, you need to sit and you need to make sure you get your good grades. Because remember, approach is very important.
Yeah.
It's how you embrace another person. Empathy is something else, And I think with empathy, you are already half your battles are won. So just be their friends, whereby they'll be able to talk to you.
Yeah.
They'll be able to take that advice that you are giving to them. I think that's more important.
Sister Lorraine, I'd like to, we can go on and do another show. I'd like to thank you for linking up with me, taking the time, to give such important. I know all the listeners who will, especially the educators of high schools, the TLOs who are coming with the 2 girl learners for the seminar on Thursday, are looking forward to meet you, looking forward for your advice and for you to, just counsel them and assist them. May the Almighty bless you and give you the strength to continue what you are doing. Thank you so much.
God bless you, Sumaya. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Yes, listeners, self-love. Say no to self-sabotage. Yes, this is with collaboration with the Department of Education. This is for our high schools. I'd like to thank our guests for linking up with us and our technician, Manji, for making the show possible. My email address is sumayakhan.alansar@outlook.com. You were born to be real, not to be perfect. Never let your shine fade for someone else. Self-love will always be the best loved. Assalamu alaikum.